The Hogsty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
The Hogsty presents It's Just Business with Steve Thomas and Rich Rogers. And now, here's your host, Chris Larry.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It's Just Business on the Hogsty Network, the show where we look at the dollars and the cents of the sports industrial entertainment complex. I am joined this fall, this NFL kickoff season, with Rich and Steve. How you doing today, fellas?
I'm doing great. It's not just kickoff season. We're actually recording this on kickoff day, the very day of the kickoff of the NFL season. It's always a great time. Very happy. We're doing a IJB early morning show, which is a bit tough, but we'll power through it. But it's NFL Christmas Day. I love it.
Well, I'm on the injury report today, listed as questionable, but I think I can go today. Hey guys, how you doing? It's kickoff day.
I have a question for you, Rich.
Yes.
Though. Is the injury self-inflicted?
Yeah, it's one of those. I was slipped in my house and cut my foot on my stairs type of with NFL players like get one of those weird bizarre injuries. So, but I'm good though. I think I can power through it.
Okay, I'm glad. I was curious whether Saturday night was a bit too much of a party night. Was what I was getting at.
Yes, it was, but we'll leave it at that. And great to have Chris back. As I hosted, I sucked as a host. As he was out, but I'm glad he's back.
All right, well, I'll do the heavy lifting.
Rich. I thought you did good. You did fine as a host.
Yeah,
you did good, better than I can do.
It was like what's his name? Sean Laval playing left tackle. So,
Yeah, you're definitely the QB2 for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris is the QB1, but you did fine.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully it was more like Sean Laval playing right tackle. Mediocre, but passable.
Yes, passable.
I don't know if that would be passable. I think he'd get his can beat if he was playing right tackle.
All right, let's jump into it. We got a lot to cover this morning. First thing we're going to do is a topic we've actually covered a few episodes ago and an interesting update on, and that is the business of the WNBA. You may remember about 2 or 3 episodes back, we talked about the business of women's sports in general. And here's a little bit more of a specific look at it, where some good information's come out recently about salaries, percentage of league that goes to players, and the general economic lives of WNBA players, which I think you could surmise without us giving you the information. They make less than their male counterparts, but we have just recently started to learn just how much less. Rich, you want to start us off here?
Yeah, sure. So Skylar Diggins, who is she's in the WNBA, and she's a really good player. And not only is she a really good player, she plays for the Dallas Wings, and she's been making a point lately about how the WNBA players have been getting significantly less of the revenue sharing of their NBA counterparts. And so just give you a little bit of backstory. The league salaries for the WNBA cap out at about $115,000, which is significantly less than the lowest paid bench player in the NBA. WNBA players earned only 22% of the annual revenue, while NBA players earn 50%. And they don't get a percentage of the jersey sales like NBA players do. So I thought this was significant in that this is something that I've always thought about, and I actually, when the WNBA started, I kind of had some interest. I don't know how long the WNBA has been in existence, but
20 years.
20 years. Wow, 20 years. So this was significant to me, and I'll just say this: the stadium, the arenas are empty. How are you going to share revenue when you don't make the revenue? where is the revenue coming from? Skylar Diggins, and I love you. If you see a picture, she's beautiful. So I'm willing to give her a pass for that. But I just think that the WNBA is not making any money. So how are you going to? What are you sharing? What do you?
Yeah,
think?
we I don't know, a year ago, we did a story about the TV contracts of a bunch of different sports leagues, and I pointed out that the total value of the WNBA TV package with ESPN is $25 million. Not $25 million a year. The total package is $25 million. Now, in contrast to that, the NBA is making about $1 billion a year on TV. So, I think Rich is exactly right. I'm all for equal pay for equal work, all of that, as a kind of a general construct. But the simple fact of the matter is, this league would have folded 15 years ago at least if the NBA hadn't been subsidizing the income, which they did for many years. I'm not sure they're still doing it now, but that's the reason the league didn't go away. Rich is exactly right. I don't have it right in front of me, the numbers right in front of me, but the average attendance for these games is less than 10,000 a game. And then there's been games where you're talking about attendance of a few thousand people. So there's not the ticket gate revenue, there's not the TV revenue. To me, the more interesting part is the fact that the WNBA players are getting about 22% of the gross revenue. Compare that to the NFL, compare that to the NBA, which, as Rich said, I think as the article said, and we have a Forbes article link, it's about 50%. But here's the deal. These teams have to pay expenses. When you have when you have a fraction of the revenue of the male league, you can't just hand over 50% of the revenue. Otherwise, the teams literally couldn't pay their bills. And so there's a real business reason why the revenue split is so much different in the WNBA. Chris?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with any of that. I mean, it's still a market-driven endeavor. So the market and the business model realities of it will dictate a lot of that. I think you could probably make a case that that could be a little bit more equity in percentage of the league revenue going into its labor. I don't think there's no room for movement there. So, and I imagine that's what they'll push for. But there's only so much blood from a stone, for the old cliche. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say. I mean, I think the reality is pretty stark for, the top, for most of the talent. They have to, to make a living playing professional basketball. And by the way, we talk about 110, 115 being the top, but the median salary is 70. So that's the more honest number. You take away the couple top earners that they have to play in Europe. They basically do 2 seasons to make one salary. So that's part of it. This isn't, and some may accuse me of saying that this is, kind of a nice thing. It isn't equity. But what I was interested in digging a little deeper, and the Forbes article actually goes on to have 4 corresponding articles that are features of 4 of these athletes. The WNBA knows that it has to take care of its players post-playing career. One, it's got the highest percentage of college degrees of any pro sports league in America. And 2, it's got 4 programs that look at the continuing career of these women, including a Harvard graduate program partnership. So at least to some degree, they understand that the WNBA came to give these top-tier athletes some post-collegiate possibility. And, to their credit, they've been able to maintain that for 20 years. Fringe leagues don't do very well in America. So 20 years of a fringe league is not nothing. And they've understood that they have some responsibility to these women to think about their career trajectories past their athletic playing career. So I think they've done some interesting things to understand themselves as a niche league and to think about their players.
It doesn't surprise me that it has the highest percentage of college degrees. Because there's no real advantage to coming into the WNBA early unless you're just in a dire financial personal family circumstance, maybe. But why would you leave the University of Connecticut early when you're going to go make $70,000 a year? I can understand why NFL players do it and NBA players do it. If you're going to make millions of dollars, I get it. I don't know if I would do it, but I get that. But yeah, I think it's one of the things, the stuff you're talking about, Chris, is stuff that the WNBA has to do. They have to make themselves a viable option, for women to come play. So I think you have to do stuff like that and have to help them with post-career stuff. And frankly, being supported by the NBA gives them the flexibility to do that, because the NBA poured millions and millions and millions of dollars into the product in the beginning and for years and years afterwards. And so I think if they were a real fringe league, meaning a startup by a bunch of business guys, I don't know if we would see all that stuff. Probably not.
No, probably not. But it also, the NBA didn't do that out of the kindness of their heart either. It was a worthy investment on their part, or at least they thought at the beginning.
I don't know if it is a worthy investment for them, because they're not making any money. If you look at the teams aren't profitable by and large. I think a couple of them are now, 20 years later, for the first time. But I think really how this started was a commitment by the NBA, which is sort of something of a progressive league when it comes to player relationships and whatnot. I think this was the league trying to support women's basketball more so than it was a financial endeavor. I think they knew they weren't going to make any money at this, and to their credit, they're trying to create better opportunity for female professional athletes, and I think that's something we could anybody reasonable at least could support.
I think...
Yeah, it's not all financial return on investment either, though. There was the social good, there was having arenas still have stuff to have in them. There was branding. Most of these teams had aligned branding with their NBA owners. So there's a whole package of reasons why it was good for the NBA, not just as a fiscal investment.
And I wonder how much of this is so the WNBA. You almost had to have a women's league, because you had UConn, Tennessee. These are the teams that were so dominant, and you had players who were really, really good from the top programs. Then the question at the beginning was, okay, can you have a league where the talent, can you sustain a league based on maybe 2 to 3 top college programs? And the league is sustainable, but let's be real. Is it the NBA is bankrolling the WNBA? And I've been to a WNBA game, and not a lot of people go, and I don't mean any disrespect. It's just that the NBA is bankrolling it, and again, where's the revenue coming from that they're talking about sharing?
There isn't revenue, and I don't think it is a sustainable product. Frankly, the fact that it has gone on 20 years is a direct result of the NBA making it go on 20 years, more so than it has been. I've tried to watch. I've never been to a game. I've tried to watch it. I just don't. I don't mean this in a sexist way or anything. I just don't find it to be particularly entertaining basketball, more so than anything. It's a slower paced game. I'm just a fan when it comes to basketball. It's not like football where I can kind of have some better insight. I don't find it to be as entertaining. It's slower paced. Nobody's dunking. Nobody's doing kind of the high flying stuff, which is what people find entertaining, and that's why I just don't really watch it, for that reason. I just would rather watch men's basketball. And I think that's maybe part of the problem with the league.
There's actually a good article also from Forbes, and just from July of this year, so fairly current, that actually starts to dig into this. And one of the things that they say is it's actually impossible to know what the league is making or not making, because it's clouded in such secrecy. And that there's actually some people that are starting to think that they probably are making more money than they let on. And it also confirms that the NBA is still involved, so they are still subsidizing to some degree, although even that is also cloaked in mystery. So we can share this article as well. It doesn't necessarily shine a lot of new light, but it does. What it really does underline is that nobody knows, including a couple of articles of the last couple of years that have claimed it's losing all its money.
Well, yeah, is that the article that the guy tried to sort of estimate, give a rough estimate of income? Yeah, that's an interesting one. Let's post that one too. Here's the deal, though. In terms, from going back to Skylar Diggins' original comments, there is a union, and the collective bargaining agreement will. I don't know when it's up for renegotiation, but they can argue these points. And that union can fight for a greater percentage of the revenue at that time, and that's the beauty of it. And that's how they can correct it, is having their own union negotiate with the WNBA, and they need to get better rights. That's the answer. This is not a case of the government holding them down. This is the case of you can stand up and negotiate with your employers.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is I like to get a little weird. The interesting thing would be the interesting thing would be to actually bring in a couple European teams, actually make it a transatlantic league. That would be super interesting if you imagine a team in Spain, London, and Paris.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a league that has their teams fly commercial, Chris. I mean, logistically, that's a really tough thing to do. It's not like the NFL can host a week in London and be fine. I don't know if the WNBA financially is going to make that work.
Well, if the sport is doing better in Europe, you figure that you expand to those markets, you expand your ability to make money.
Yeah, but I mean, are we going to put a WNBA team on a commercial flight? From I don't know, Dallas to Berlin.
There's ways to do it. You could figure it out. You could do chunks of your schedule.
I mean, if the NFL can't make that work, I just don't see how the WNBA can make that work. I mean, I get your point.
Well, they're going to probably have to try something.
If it's a more popular, if it is a more popular sport in Europe, let's get some of the Euro teams. I mean, I understand your point in general. I just think when you're talking about a fringe league, as I think we named them earlier, I think that's tough for a fringe league to have a transatlantic presence.
Well, as we transition away from the WNBA, we would be remiss in not wishing the Washington Mystics success in the league championship series here. Further cementing Ted Leonsis as the ultimate DC sports owner.
And now the series may be over by the time this show is published, but yeah, certainly best of luck to the Mystics. I
mean, Ted Leonsis. I mean, there are a lot of fans that are saying maybe he should buy the Washington Redskins, but they're talking about DC. If they win, could be a title town.
It's like, we win the fringe sports. We win hockey
but we all know it's king in DC, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup less of Ted Leonsis and more because they had one of the best players in the league.
Well, why don't we move on so you guys don't continue to sound ignorant?
I'm not a hockey fan, sue me.
All right, our next topic is spin the wheel, and it comes up on Kaepernick, Nike, NFL. Of course, it's the we thought LeVar Ball was our spirit animal for the show, but I think this topic has taken over. But as maybe exhausted as everyone is with this topic, there is certainly new news, and since the last time we talked about it, and even the last time we taped an episode, with, of course, the Nike contract between Kaepernick, as well as continuing satellite issues. But I'd like to dive in a little bit to talk about the implications for Nike making a bold move. No one could deny that, regardless of what side you're on, in having this huge contract and commercial push with Kaepernick, and Nike's role as the apparel contract, exclusive, by the way, exclusive apparel contract with the NFL, which probably has them on some kind of collision course. And I know, in fact, the NFL is preparing some kind of action comment or something because that it puts them in a pretty precarious situation.
Yeah, let's be clear about one thing. First of all, I didn't realize this before the story broke, but Colin Kaepernick has always been under contract with Nike. They didn't sign him recently. He's been under contract, and what happened is one, they created an ad campaign for the first time with him, and two, they signed him to an extension of that contract. But he's always been under contract. Nike, when it has controversial athletes, has a history of keeping them under contract, not dropping them, and just kind of hanging on to these guys until the right moment, or what they deem to be the right moment. They did it with Tiger Woods. Tiger got dropped by everybody when his cheating scandal and all of that broke. But unlike everybody else, Nike hung on to Tiger and brought him back kind of slowly. And that's what happened to Colin Kaepernick here. I don't think it's a surprise to either Rich or Chris or anybody who's listening how I feel about Colin Kaepernick. Nothing has changed. If anything, I've been more disgusted by him personally. But strictly from a business standpoint, I think what's interesting, I think the story is what Nike is doing and why they're doing it. They created an ad campaign. Nike is smart enough. Nike has brilliant marketing people, in-house and whatever ad firm New York ad firm they're using. They've always been brilliant. They had to know that what they were doing was going to alienate a certain segment of the United States population, which was a substantial segment. They had to know that. And so why are they doing it? From what I understand, this truly is a step by Nike to insert itself into the social discussion that is going on in the country right now. And I think from what I have read is they are doing that because they think that their population skews, I'm sorry, not their population. They think that their customer base skews more minority, which from polling will tell you supports the Colin Kaepernick and his cause more so than white America. And that's what I understand why Nike is doing what they're doing. And so I think they're stepping into this knowing that they're going to lose a share of their customer base. And they probably knew that what happened to their stock was going to happen, because they lost like $3 billion in market cap last week. Market cap is a way that you measure the size of public companies. It's stock price minus times outstanding shares. And their stock went down last week. Simultaneously with that, their sales increased last week in conjunction with the breaking of the Kaepernick campaign. Very interesting. Thoughts?
So, now I think a lot of people will abandon Nike and start wearing Converse. No.
Me, I'm one of them. I will never wear Nike again.
Yeah, well, I can see you, Steve.
I'm planning on buying my first pair of Nike merchandise for the first time in 35 years.
I literally and honestly almost burned my shoes in the driveway, and that's before I realized I didn't have another pair of gym shoes.
Oh, Steve!
So
I can see that. I can see Steve with a pair of ponies or a pair of Reeboks. Anyway,
it's gonna be. I think I'm going Reebok. Yeah. I think I'm gonna go Reebok.
So Nike knows what it's doing. Nike is king. Nike can withstand this, and I think it's all about money. Not to get into, just to kind of refresh and take a different angle, not to get into the politics of Colin Kaepernick's stance. I just think that this was a very smart business position that they took. I think they're playing to a base, particularly African Americans, minorities, and there are many whites that support Kaepernick. And I think Nike knew what they were doing. You can't tell me that there's not some egghead square in an office that's figuring out the projections and the business angle of this and the revenue. So, Colin Kaepernick appears and, with his afro and with his commercial. And I just think that it's brilliant marketing and advertising. I think
I don't know if it's brilliant though, Rich. I mean,
I do.
If you're a major company, why would you want to alienate a segment of your customer base. I mean,
because
you don't
they're
see
not going
McDonald's
to,
doing
Steve. I mean,
they already have. Yes, they have, Rich.
No.
The conservative population in this country will never support Nike.
But they are.
Alienating.
But Steve, you don't think?
Sure, they
I
will.
buy
First of
sneak-
all, Nike's a long view company. In 5 years, no one's going to care. People
And they
buy
will.
Nike.
I'm telling you right now that as long as Colin Kaepernick is a spokesman, people like me are not going to support Nike. You guys are.
First of all, they don't care about you, and that's fine.
I buy sneakers
and
too. I buy sneakers too.
2/3 of you will be back in 5 years. This is a company does not reign this long and not know how to do financial projections.
And Steve, but Steve, don't you think they know they were going to? Nike knows they were going to alienate people like you. They're like, okay,
they knew that.
We know
they're dumb if they don't.
But it's not like
and they're not dumb.
But they're like, okay, we know that the whatever. I'm not going to label you, but they know they're going to alienate some people with that campaign.
Let's just put the label out there. They know they're going to label politically conservative people. Okay, primarily white. Politically conservative people. That is the demo that they have alienated, right? Let's just throw the label out there.
Right. Well, okay. And they're like, so what? We've got what? I guarantee you that the African American community they've got. I guarantee you they've probably got young whites, millennials.
They've got half the white population already.
Yes.
This doesn't this idea.
They
that
had,
this is
but
like some
Chris,
dominant paradigm is a joke.
Chris, I think your views are skewing the issue. Before they had everybody liked Nike before. Now a certain group of a segment of the population doesn't like it. You don't see McDonald's doing this. McDonald's sells hamburgers to McDonald's markets itself down the middle. It's a really dumb thing for any company, major company, to take political stances. You don't see that happen because they don't want to alienate any part of their segment, any part
Steve,
of
no
their
offense,
customer base.
You're a smart guy. You don't know what you're talking about.
I do know
Nike,
what I'm talking about.
no, you don't.
Nike
Nike is a huge multinational company. If they know everything to the dime of what it's going to do.
And
they
now
already
they're
have calculated
Exactly.
every piece of this.
So, Steve, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? I mean, okay, from just give me a hypothesis. What do you think is going to happen to Nike because of this, realistically?
I mean, I don't know if you're talking short term, long term, but
They don't care about short term.
well, yeah, I'm asking. You know, I don't know exactly what you want me to hypothesize.
No. What I'm saying is, what I'm asking you is, do you think Nike is really going to take a long term major hit over this?
They're going to take a long. They're going to take they've already taken a hit, and the hit is permanent in that segment of the customer, they've lost, their stock price went down. I think the sales bump that they saw last week was temporary. You know, yes, I think they know that their principal customer base skews minority. You know, from what I understand, they know that, and that's what they're marketing to. But what I'm telling you is that Reebok, Under Armour, McDonald's, and Coke, and Ford and Chevy, GM, have taken non-political marketing campaigns.
Ford just said they support players' rights to protest any way they see fit. Just last week, Steve. Just last week.
Is Ford marketing themselves in campaigns that intentionally alienate a portion of society?
They don't even need to comment on it. So why would they comment on it if they didn't?
I haven't seen their comment other than what you just said. My point is,
Google it.
Major companies typically market themselves in non-political ways intentionally in order to sell their product across the spectrum. And what Nike has done is not do. Nike's marketing campaign has eliminated that. And then I want to answer Rich's question. I'm not trying to dodge it. You know, if you want me to hypothesize, you know, going forward, I can't speak to the numbers because I haven't studied the numbers. I think, generally speaking, Nike is going to probably forever alienate conservative white America.
Forever?
I don't think that's going to come back. Yes, as long as Kaepernick is involved in the campaign. I don't know how long that's going to be. As long as Kaepernick involves in the campaign, they've lost us. Now, in terms of financially, maybe they'll make money at it, through increased sales and through increased support with, other groups. I mean, that's possible. Again, I don't know the numbers, but that's possible. But I'm just telling you right now, Chris, you don't know my segment, my group of people. Okay, you don't know them. You don't know how they feel. This is
I know exactly how they feel. I say it doesn't matter.
Most of the people I know have stopped watching the NBA.
You mean
I'm
NFL?
one of the very few people.
The NFL?
I'm sorry, NFL. Yeah, most of the people I know don't watch the NFL anymore. It's specifically because of the of this whole Colin Kaepernick flag situation. I'm one of the few people in my group that still supports the NFL.
We need to get your group on the show.
Overly reliant on me.
Can we get your?
They're all over the world.
Can we get your group? Can we get your group on the show? Because you said my group. I don't think Nike cares anything about the actual. What I can't say anything. I don't think Nike. This isn't anything about. They care about social justice or they care about. Police brutality. I just think this is a business move. I'm not saying it was a bad move. I just don't think. I mean, again, we get so caught up in the person, and we don't look at the cause. And I don't think Nike is. I have not seen anything where they say that they're down for the cause. So I'll leave it at that.
I did read something about that, but I think you're right. I think it's a business decision. They may say anything they want, but at the end of the day, their marketing people think they're doing this because of to make money, and their strategy is most definitely going to alienate a certain segment of society. But I think Nike knows, because Nike's smart, that their sales are going to it's ultimately probably going to work out for them one way or the other, and that's why they're doing it. It's not. You're right. I don't think Nike cares one whit about anybody's social cause. They just want to make money, and they have an obligation to their stockholders to make money.
All right, and so for our listeners, and you can't really see us, this is a very contentious and hot topic, and Chris and Steve, if you could see their faces, they look a little flustered right now, so I'm going to take over the hosting, and we're going to move on.
All right.
Okay.
Host. Let's go.
To the Kansas City Chiefs. Is that our next topic, Chris?
Yes, I believe. Tailgating.
Okay.
Something no one can accuse me of not having personal history.
So the Kansas City Chiefs have made a decision, and I think this is very, very interesting, to cut tailgating after kickoff. And after kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium, you cannot tailgate. And the owner has said it's not going to be a hard stop. They have said that they're going to phase this in because there was a 2016 wrongful death lawsuit on the parking lot. And what I thought was very interesting, so just to give you a little backstory, a guy was drunk, got into a car that he thought was his, looked like his. And when the owners came and they saw a stranger sitting in their car, they pulled him out of the car and beat him, and he eventually died. So his wife filed a wrongful death lawsuit. And the reason why I thought this story was interesting is I do go to multiple Redskins games a year, and I've always maintained that many fans are completely inebriated, intoxicated, and it's only a matter of time before either someone gets killed and someone files these type of lawsuits. But it's interesting of how they can enforce it, and they say that they can, but they say they're going to phase it in, and because they're fans that don't even buy tickets to the game, they just come and park and tailgate and drink and eat and drink and eat. What do you think?
It's very interesting, I think. And the other thing about it, I think there's a liability issue going on. I also think that they want people to go into the stadium to buy food in the stadium and not just sit out in the parking lot and eat their own food. I think there's part of it. But it's the liability part is interesting because the parking lots are in many cases public land. Most of these parking lots are owned by a conglomeration that is controlled by local governments. And so if you file a wrongful death lawsuit, your defendants may be the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't know about the Kansas City Stadium in particular, but your defendants may be the Kansas City Chiefs and then the owner of the parking lot, which might be the government. And so I think they have a vested interest, as Rich points out, they have a vested interest in making sure that doesn't happen. But the other part of it is I think the team has a vested interest in getting you into the stadium for optics reasons. They want the seats filled, when the cameras are on. They also want you to buy hot dogs and hamburgers and whatever else inside the stadium instead of bringing your own. So I think that that's a part of it as well. It's an interesting decision. Me as an introvert, I hate tailgates, and I would never go to one. I always just personally go straight into the stadium, but that's because I'm a weird introvert. Thoughts?
I'm tired of amateurs ruining it for the rest of us. So people, handle your business and we can all tailgate and have fun. But I don't see how. I think I generally agree with Rich that the bad drunks and the excess and the people can't handle their business are going to get it ruined for all, because it is a huge liability issue, and anybody that's been to an NFL game knows that they're generally ruined by drunken behavior. And the only place that the teams can control that is inside the stadium. So you'll see the trend is going to be more of this, and soon. I would see there's no other way to look at it.
Right, and I don't think, and the thing is, and I've shared this before. I can't. My daughter's 12. I'm not. I've taken her to one game, and it was a preseason game. No, that's not true. I took her to the Redskins Tampa Bay game. Actually, that Tampa Bay game in 2015, where that was the come from behind win that actually saved Kirk Cousins and Jay Gruden's job. But
that was the
you like that game. But I would not take my daughter to an NFL game. She knows that people are too drunk, too rowdy, and it's a liability. And I think, and the reason why I think this is really significant is the NFL has gotten, in my opinion, has gotten really lucky that there haven't been more. I mean, I know they had the case in San Francisco where the fan, they got the fan fight, and I think the player got one of the fans got into a fight, and he was in the coma.
Wait. Are you talking about the Dodgers?
No, I'm talking about the
incident.
No, it was
Dodgers,
Raiders,
Giants,
Oakland.
Raiders.
It was Raiders at San Francisco Raiders.
That's what I thought. So. This is a something that I want to watch very closely, because I do think that people are entirely too drunk.
Well, it should be a family affair, right? I mean, you ought to be able to take your daughter. I've never taken my kid to an NFL game. I mean, he's older now, but I didn't for sort of the same reasons. Why would you want to subject the kids to that? And just me being me in the nature of my personality, again, I'm not going to ever tailgate, but it's no better inside the stadium, particularly if you're a fan of the away team. If you had gone, you're a Redskin fan, Rich, but if you'd gone to the Tampa Bay Redskin game as a Tampa fan,
yeah,
and you bring a kid, I mean, that just magnifies it. And the fans of opposing teams should have the right to come in and not be harassed. Yeah. And anything but maybe good-natured kind of ribbing is fine, but I mean the stuff that happens is totally unacceptable sometimes.
And I think another issue is when your team sucks and you have so many visiting fans, that also creates another element.
Yeah, it's an interesting liability thing, though. I mean, because why would teams continue to open themselves up to this kind of premises liability type issues? It's crazy.
Well, maybe if they didn't charge $20 for a beer, people wouldn't feel the need to pound them in the parking lot as frequently too. So that's also the captured economy inside the stadium.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. I don't know how much beer costs if you're being facetious with $20 or not, but I mean certainly
not really
expensive. Really?
$9 was the last price that last season I paid $9 a beer in the stadium
at FedEx. Okay, and so that's probably comparable around the NFL, roughly, I would assume. And so that's a lot, and that is certainly part of the reason why people are eating and drinking out in the parking lot. And that's also, again, why teams want to force you inside the stadium, because they want you to buy your beer and hot dogs and whatever else at their concession stand. because there's more money there too. So there's a reason why. There's many reasons why they're doing it. I've not heard of another team doing this yet. So the question would be, is it going to continue? Is this a trend that other teams are gonna pick up? I don't know. It would be smart if they did.
If they were the NFL doesn't do anything unless they're probably forced to. So if you have an incident like they had in Kansas City, then you probably see other teams do it. I don't know if they're forward thinking like that. But they should be. They should be.
Yeah.
They should. I mean, it's so interesting. They're concerned about player safety, but are they really concerned about fan safety?
I don't think they're concerned about anybody's safety, including player safety. It's just all about. They have a vested financial interest in pretending to care about player safety more than anything.
Right. So the interesting thing is, like, why wouldn't owners have act sooner? I mean, you think of. I don't know how many parking spaces there are at FedEx or any other, but
like 20,000. Think like 20,000.
So let's just say 18,000, 19,000 people are cooking, and I'm not talking about just hot dogs. I mean, they're like cooking everything, drinking a lot. So it's interesting that owners haven't said, wait a minute, I want to maximize my revenue, so I want people to eat in my stadium, eat my concessions, and drink my concessions.
Remember, though, that this isn't just an owner decision, okay? I mean, because in every case, the team is a tenant of the stadium. Now, some cases, the stadiums are owned by the owners under another corporate entity, but by and large, that's not true. So most NFL stadiums are owned by a private corporation that is controlled by the local government. And so it's not, the owner doesn't have typically the unfettered right to just do this. In some cases, it's the landlord, meaning the government, in essence, the government also would have to step in because they're on the hook first and foremost.
Interesting trend that is somewhat related, but beverage and food, and I'm looking at a article in Food and Wine magazines, and not even necessarily a sports publication at all. The trend is actually going, especially led by Detroit, Atlanta, and looks like Baltimore, are actually, and I think the Redskins will be following suit soon, given their new business hires, that food and beverage costs are actually going down in the stadium because the reputation for NFL games, for some of the reasons, but not exclusive to the reasons we just talked about, is going down. I mean, you're going to, watching Redskins fans, you're going to see empty stadiums. You're going to see those across the league. One, because generally the experience is better on television for a whole host of reasons, including rowdy fans. And they know that stadiums they're losing butts and seats. And so in Atlanta and Detroit, you've got beers as low as $5. In Atlanta, you can get a $5 beer and a $3 nachos. So you're actually seeing an interesting trend where they've understood that they've started to price fans out of the stadium experience, and we may actually see a bunch of changes. And we know the NFL on many ways is a copycat league, and you've already seen this. I think Atlanta started this trend 3 years ago, and you've already seen a bunch of teams start to look at this. And I think you're going to see more of that. And that does include, one way to limit tailgating is to make the in-stadium experience better.
Can I make a bold prediction? Bold NFL prediction. I think we're going to see the first non-sold-out Redskins game in 50 years this year at FedEx Field. And what I mean by non-sold-out is the way the NFL has always counted it is regular seating, meaning non-premium seating. I think we're going to see a game this year that the non-premium seating is going to be not sold out for the first time since the 60s.
I mean,
bold prediction.
Especially since they're going to go 5-11, right, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I know you disagree with my 5-11 prediction, which is fine. We can debate that too if you want. Yeah. and again, what I said, if I had been more rational, I probably would have gone maybe 7-9. Because I did those predictions immediately after the Denver preseason game. And so they were a little bit more negative than I probably would have. I'm sticking with them because that's what I predicted. But had I been on a more even keel mind space, I probably would have gone 7-9. But certainly, I think it's a tough road to hoe. But NFL wise, again, I think my bold prediction is that we're going to see a non-sold out game. I got an email from the Redskins a week ago offering me tickets to the Redskins home opener a week ago, meaning it wasn't sold out last week.
Well, they called me last week. They call me
did?
like every couple of weeks, every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's so interesting. They say, "Well, we see that you were on our website and you inquired about game tickets, and if you just wanted me to know that I don't have to go through like StubHub or NFL Ticket Exchange, that I can like buy directly from the team." And I thought that was interesting. Like I never thought I could just like pick up thought I see the day where you could just like pick up a phone and just buy some tickets. But the first step to recovery is what? Admitting you have a problem.
It's the Alcoholics Anonymous theory.
That's actually true.
Ticket sales.
So I think that's a good thing.
I think it's one of the best things that's happened to the team in a long time. I mean,
Yes.
like, face reality, bite the bullet. You got to deal with these things. And I think, I'm generally the negative Nancy on most things Washington Redskins, except probably the play on the field, where I try to keep a little bit more balance. But I find it heartening that they made those now 2 or 3 hires that they've made in the last 5 or 6 months, that they have dropped the facade of the wait list, that they're being aggressive in their marketing, that they're thinking about ways to, for a long time, the argument was, well, Schneider doesn't have to change anything. They're doing fine. It's one of the richest franchises in sports, blah, 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 blah. And yes, the on-the-field product is the biggest driver of that stuff, but I think they finally admitted, as Rich said, that they have a lot of problems, and I'd rather let them be bold-faced about that and deal with it. And I also don't think it's strictly a Washington Redskins problem. I think as you watch opening day is a little bit skewed because of the excitement, but talk to me even by week 4 or 5, and I think you're going to be a little bit surprised at any game you turn on and seeing the dotted empty seats. So I think that is going to be a storyline this season, and all fans who enjoy their 64-inch TV and their surround sound and they're getting their own beer out of their fridge experience of football, which is optimal in many ways, better be thanking the football gods that they did away with the blackout rule a couple years ago.
Let's do this. And Chris, you brought this up before the show. Let's do some NFL bold predictions. Since the season started, we're kind of running out of time, so we got to do this quickly. But let's go around the horn and do some bold NFL season predictions in honor of the start of the season. And I have one to start off. I'll start us off here. I think a major storyline this year is going to be the continue of the decline of the NFL ratings. As the trend has gone for the past couple of years. We saw it with opening day, the Thursday night opening game with the Falcons and Eagles. Now, the game started a half an hour late, which pushed the East Coast start time up to, 9:30?
9:05.
9:05. Okay, 9:05. And that's most definitely a part of it, because at some point you'll lose audience when you start that late. That's part of it. But I think, generally speaking, you're going to continue to see the NFL ratings continue to decline, and that's going to be a major storyline going forward.
I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be a story. I think the NFL is king. Who cares? I think people are going to watch it. But bold predictions. I think that the CBA issue things. I think we're setting up for a major work stoppage with the CBA in the next couple of years.
Richard Sherman agrees with you.
And he won't even be in the league at that time. So,
yeah,
but he just said it yesterday.
Did he? Richard Sherman's a smart guy. He's a Stanford guy. He's abrasive, but he's actually a very smart guy when it comes to a lot of things. Chris,
he guaranteed work stoppage. I think the ratings will continue to be a story. I think what we're seeing, we've talked about this many times. I think there's a broader media landscape. Yes, there's politics. I think what we're seeing is NFL is finding its new normal with ratings, and that new normal will still be the most watched thing on television. And I think it's the balance of those two things. I'd say, and this I believe will be scapegoated by some, my prediction for lower ratings. But an interesting storyline for me is that as a third of the refs are rookies.
Interesting.
And so we have seen, now they could all turn out to be good refs. They could be good refs now, but that's still a lot of on-the-job training for a pretty high-profile job where everyone's already, well, just by nature of sports and fandom, ready to blame the refs. But also, one of the main narratives about the degradation of football, whether that's from a business standpoint, a rating standpoint, a quality on the field standpoint, all of the above, is reffing, and more importantly, not the individual men, but the rules and their interpretation thereof. So we saw What Is a Catch featured extremely prominently on Thursday's opening night game. I mean, that was insane that the review didn't reverse that. So 2 refs got it wrong. And so a third of the ref workforce, starting their professional career today, being Sunday when we record this, is going to be a storyline similar to not at scale, but similar to the storyline of the replacement refs a couple years ago. And as people start blaming the sloppiness, the rule changes, and the interpretations of, that's going to be a big story.
There's a fine line between part of the reason, I think maybe the principal reason the rules have changed is that the NFL ownership continues to be concerned that the player safety aspect is going to hurt their bottom line, right? And so this is the reason why the rules are getting stricter with regards to hitting, with regards to leading with your head. But at some point, having so many flags and so many penalties hurts the game. Like, I thought the Eagles-Falcons opening day game was a flag parade the whole entire night, particularly in the first half. And I thought it really kind of got in the way of the flow of the game. So
Totally.
I think there has to be a fine line between penalties and protecting the game through protecting the bottom line and letting fans just enjoy the game, because nobody wants to see every play with a penalty. I got tired of it personally, and I thought it truly did lessen my enjoyment of the Eagles-Falcons game a little bit. So I think they need to be careful about how many penalties are being called.
Weird, a little bit more footballish prediction, but because of all of this, look for slot receivers and tight ends to be putting up career years across the league, considering that these new rules are going to make the middle of the field about as close to uninterrupted pitch and catch as you're going to see.
Hey, Trey Quinn.
Come on, you got to ride with Crowder still.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Trey Quinn has captured the hearts and minds of Redskins fans everywhere, but I think that whatever naked pictures Ryan Grant had of Jay Gruden, he passed them on to Trey Quinn. So now Trey Quinn has them. Right. That's what I think.
Well, gentlemen, I think that the storyline, there needs to be, I don't know if you guys have a TV where you are, but the suit that Michael Irvin has on NFL Network is and I'm not even being, it is absolutely unacceptable for TV. Now I understand being fashion forward and fashion con, they should not allow him to wear that suit.
Does he look like a billboard or something?
He looks ridiculous.
I don't have a TV right now in front of me, so I can't check it out. But I can only imagine what horror show he's wearing. So bold prediction: Michael Irvin's wardrobe choices are going to have to be toned down.
But you know what? Let me make one last point on what we were just talking about. I think people are underestimating this the move that actually Dan Snyder made with bringing Brian LaFemina in. I think that so many years people have asked, for him to get it right, or talked about he doesn't really understand. I think him bringing in someone to improve the fan experience is a major move for Dan Snyder, and I'm really excited. I won't say excited. I'm really curious as to what comes next. But I think this is a bold move from an owner who has been defiant and who believes that he gets it right.
No, I agree with you. So, do we want to end it there? We've kind of run out of time.